Well, hello there. Welcome to week 9 of History 1110. We have just completed that midterm. Hopefully, you got that turned in yesterday. I'm recording this, or you'll see this on Monday. So, yes, Sunday, it's due. Make sure you have that done. Now, if something arose and you did not turn in, I do give you Monday and Tuesday to finish it. I really hope you don't have to take those that you use all last week as the entire week to prepare it, turn it in, call it good. But please don't let me give you that zero. This is worth, or the midterm's always worth a lot more points. But that was last week. This week, week 9 is Africa. Africa is one of those continents, those many, many countries in it that changed a lot. One, because colonization. And two, a lot of like turnover and war kind of in those inner things. But when I say Africa, you probably think of the pyramids, the Nile River, probably Nelson Mandela with South Africa, and then probably desert. But one of the coolest things about Africa is that its geography is not desert. It is, but you've got grassy savannas, you've got mountains, you've got a very diverse continent, grasslands, rolling rivers, deserts. You got glaciers, you got rainforests, you got grasslands. Holy cow, I can talk. You can see that most of it's in between the Tropic of Cancer and Tropic of Capricorn. So it is a very tropical climate. So it is that warmer, hotter climate, but it has so much more than just desert. These variations led to so much change. Ideas, people, animals, they're always migrating. They're moving all around because of the diversity, because of that big change. You got the deserts there. You can see some of the bigger rainforest jungles right there. The grasslands. Here's another desert a lot of people forget about. You got to see some of those colder glacial areas. But it's all right there in Africa. A lot of people, scientists and historians, a lot of people believe that it's this kind of grassy land, this type of area where humans first arrived. Whatever your beliefs are your beliefs, but a lot of people are showing that evidence that humans started in Africa and kind of rose up from there, expanding to Mesopotamia to start the first civilizations over in Egypt, then to China and across all the worlds based on the ice ages, based on the different variations of the planet. There we go. But while the humans started in Africa, civilization didn't start there. That was Mesopotamia, that was Indus River Valley. Here, all the people were hunters and gatherers. They had that big idea of very small groups, 20, 30 tops. Like we just feed what we can. That's all that's allowed. And so you stay in those little groups and kind of build from there. With all those influences of constantly moving, though. So you have a lot of different groups that kind of showcased their ideas because there's so little patches all over the huge continent. River basins. So you can see that there are some rivers, good grasslands. You can just hunters gather, they're going to follow that herd. So it's those river basins that allowed them to switch from hunter-gatherers to farmers. Because are we going to start civilization in this picture? No, that's desert. Those are giant dunes. And you're going to use that as protection, but you're going to make sure you're further away in a nice, safe location. So with that switch, let's keep on scrolling. It's places like Lake Victoria that allow that water and those tribes to start to flourish. And so once you start settling down, once you start coming up with those ideas, you can get bigger tribes, people like the Bantus. It literally means people. It describes the many groups. It showed how the first people in Africa moved, lived, and like I said, there were those small groups that grew into If we scroll all the way down, the very different tribes, you can see the movements into the kingdom of Kush. All right, it started right here. So Egypt already kind of going on right there. That was where, yeah, Egypt's this huge country, but ancient Egypt's this little area right here, right along the Nile. The kingdom of Kush right there, right on the other side. Eventually they do unite, but it was the southern half of the Nile River. They're the huge trading partners. Remember, they started off as small tribes like 20, 30, and then it grew to cities like the size of Craig, size of Hayden, size of Steamboat, where that just had to be crazy because metallurgy. Bronze at first, then iron started to be able to trade. And once you're starting to make good ideas, good products, people will be like, oh, I have some extra food. Here, you take this. I'll take that sword, that spear, that whatever. So metallurgy really made Kush flourish, made it grow really, really big. And that was kind of like the big civilization outside of Africa in early, or sorry, outside of Egypt in early Africa. A lot of trading tribes that would move through the desert, through the rainforest, but it's a very kind of calm area in ancient times. Because remember, at the top of that picture, we saw that it was desert. People aren't crossing that desert unless they know where they're going. So no one really wanted to invade Africa because if the top half is desert and you don't go past the top half, you're going to assume the rest is desert. So that's why the Kingdom of Kush and Egypt were the two main civilizations that kind of filtered down. Now, am I saying that there was no other civilizations? No, of course there were. They're just smaller. They were just less important, not important, less influenced by the Greeks and the Romans, and they didn't influence the Greeks and the Romans as much. So they kind of get pushed back in the idea. But just because the desert's up there doesn't mean the Mediterranean Sea did not help out. Because North Africa, let's see if we can find a good picture. Yes, we can. This right here, North Africa, is right prime trading. And the Mediterranean Sea, you can see that you can easily bounce from place to place. And this is the Phoenicians, the Minoans, the Mycenaeans, the Greeks, the Romans. Everybody who has ever been really good at sailing has used the Mediterranean Sea to their advantage. And one of those cities that grew was right there, Carthage. Carthage was a Phoenician offshoot, kind of like city-state type, so to speak, that grew and flourished due to trade. It had kings, it was republic, it was becoming huge. They were getting praise from the Greek civilizations and from the Roman civilizations as well. They were showcasing that, hey, Africa can have some power. Because you got to remember, during the time of this ancient time, Egypt would rise up and then it would disappear. Then it would rise up, then it would disappear. Then it would rise up, then it finally got conquered. So Egypt would show the might of Africa, but then kind of disappear for a while. And so Carthage was just that power that really remained and showcased and grew. And they started to kind of push back on those big ideas. And that's where Berbers, B-E-R, kind of started to get those titles. It's what Roman and Greek called North African natives, basically meant barbarian, because they didn't like how they were doing things. They didn't see the benefits of those ways because it was different from how they did it. And so that kind of like struggle, lack of a better word, of the two different cultures rose up with the Punic Wars. You can see Carthage versus Rome in this struggle, and it was, we got to go back and forth, back and forth. You can see this is the map of the Second Punic War with Hannibal taking the generalship. He took over Spain. He marched his giant elephants over the Alps, came down, hit Rome, and then was kind of started pushed back because Rome kind of swooped in and started attacking Carthage. finally being defeated at Zama. So Rome won all three. They did. But it was the second one that really scared them. Hannibal scared the Romans. He was such a good general that they have statues of him. They would used to like kind of one of those spooky stories they would tell kids at night was, hey, Hannibal's coming, beware, or go to bed, or Hannibal will get you, type of things. So Carthage did scare him that one. And the third one, which lasted from 146 BCE, or 149 to 146. You can kind of see some of the art and ideas of early Africa. There's Cleopatra. But from that early time, or from the Third Punic War, Rome wins. The myth says they salted the earth. They basically destroyed Carthage and destroyed the land that it was on. Now, that doesn't make sense at all, because Carthage was like North Africa, especially kind of around Carthage and especially in Egypt, was the breadbasket. They fed everywhere. So in real life, yeah, they made sure Carthage would never rise up as a city again, but they used Carthage to their advantage, meaning they basically took over and said, hey, you're going to give us food as tribute so we don't come and attack you again. Then you've got this right here. If we remember that map, all this is the Sahara Desert. Trade specialists knew these routes. They could they figure out where the oases are, where the rivers are, and how to build from them. So Mediterranean Sea, they love their goods. They're going to trade all around. They come to the desert and go, we don't know the way. But the trade specialists, they do. They're like, you follow us, you pay us really well, we're going to get you that money you want. And what do they use? Camels. Camels were that not new discovery, but that animal husbandry where they're like, we need you. And the camels are like, we're camels, so if you domesticate us, which they did, they used them just fine. So that's Africa in a nutshell. Make sure you read the whole chapter to get all the great details. Make sure you take that quiz, answer the discussion questions, reply to 2, and we'll be just fine this week. If you have any questions or need any help, let me know. I am here. Otherwise, good luck.